Listen to me. You are not alone in the room. Even when the door is locked, even when the phone is silent, even when the night is deep and nobody is watching you, you are not alone. There is a voice. It is already talking. It has been talking since morning, since childhood, since before you had words for it. It comments on everything. It judges, it compares, it complains, it narrates. It says this is good, this is bad. It says you should be different. It says you were wrong. It says tomorrow will be worse. It says be careful. It says hurry. It says you are not enough. And you have believed innocently that this voice is you. That is the great lie. I say to you, this voice is not you. It is a mechanism. It is a program. It is a borrowed tape. It is a parasite. It has moved into the house, and it has convinced the owner that the owner is the servant. It speaks in your name. It uses your face. It uses your memories, and it signs every thought with the word I. It has stolen the signature. And because it has stolen the signature, you think it is your soul, your essence, your personality. My beloved ones, it is only noise that has learned your language. You have never been taught this. You have been taught mathematics, history, polite behavior, how to sit, how to smile when you are hurt, how to compete without looking like you are competing. You have been taught to control your body. Nobody told you that the real prison is not outside. The real prison is this commentator sitting inside your skull, like a little clerk keeping accounts, making profit and loss statements about your life. And the tragedy is that you take this clerk seriously. You worship this clerk. You ask this clerk, "What should I do?" Then you wonder why you feel tired. How can you not be tired, carrying a madman on your shoulders? Watch it for a moment. When you are alone and you try to be quiet, it becomes even louder. It will bring old scenes like dirty photographs. It will bring future disasters like movies. It will bring imagined conversations. It will rehearse what you should have said. It will rehearse what you will say. It will create enemies in an empty room. It will create an audience even when nobody is there. It does not allow you to simply be. And you have called this thinking as if it is something noble. Most of what you call thinking is simply compulsive talking. It is like a radio that cannot be switched off. And you have forgotten that it is a radio. You think it is your heart. This parasite survives by one trick: identification. It whispers, "I am your voice. I am your truth. I am your reality." And you nod. You say yes. The moment you say yes, you are possessed. not by a demon from ancient books, but by a very modern demon, an internalized social machine. Your parents were possessed by it. Your teachers were possessed by it. Your lovers are possessed by it. They pass it to each other like a virus. Politely, with smiles, it jumps from one person to another through language, through fear, through reward and punishment. It says, be somebody. It says, prove yourself. It says, do not fail. It says, do not be alone. It says, do not be ordinary. It says, do not feel too much. It says, do not feel too little. It keeps you running in circles, and then it calls the running life. And remember, I am not asking you to believe me. Belief is also part of the parasite. Belief is cheap. I am asking you to look. This is a laboratory, your own mind. Be a scientist, not a believer. Observe the voice as if you are watching a stranger. You will be shocked. The stranger is living in your house. The stranger eats your energy. The stranger sleeps in your bed. The stranger makes love through your body. The stranger decides your mood, and you have never even asked, who are you? The mind in its roots is not evil. I am not against intelligence. I am against unconsciousness. The brain is a survival tool. It is a biocomputer. It is made of flesh, electricity, chemistry, and habit. It did not evolve to make you blissful. It evolved to keep the organism alive long enough to reproduce. That is all. It is designed for the jungle. In the jungle, negativity is intelligence. If you hear a rustle in the bushes and you assume it is the wind, you may become dinner. If you assume it is a predator and it is only the wind, you lose nothing. So the brain learns one central prayer: expect danger, expect loss, expect betrayal, expect pain. It is not personal, it is biological. That is why it clings to trauma. That is why it remembers insults more than compliments. That is why it replays humiliations more than successes. Pain is sticky. Pain is a warning label. The brain is like a cautious accountant. It keeps the receipts of suffering. Joy is light, it moves on. Pain is heavy, it stays. This is not because you are broken. This is because the machinery is ancient. You are trying to live a modern life with outdated software. You live among bills and emails and traffic lights, but the program inside you still thinks in terms of predators and exile and starvation. So it screams danger when there is no danger. It screams when someone does not reply to your message. It screams when your boss frowns. It screams when your partner is silent. It screams when you are alone on a Sunday afternoon. There is no tiger, but the body floods with the same chemicals. And because you do not understand this, you personalize it. You say, something is wrong with me. No, something is old in you. Something is primitive in you. The mechanism is doing its job, but you have made it the master of the house. The master of the house should be awareness. The servant should be mind. But you have crowned the servant. Now the servant sits on the throne, and you, the king, are polishing the shoes. Look at how it works. The brain is a prediction machine. It scans the past to predict the future. It takes fragments of memory, pain, pleasure, and it builds a model. Then it tries to keep you safe by controlling everything. But life cannot be controlled. So the brain is always failing, and because it is always failing, it becomes more anxious. And because it becomes more anxious, it becomes more controlling. It is a vicious circle. You call it worry, you call it overthinking, but it is simply an algorithm in panic. This algorithm is also fed by society. Society wants predictable people. Society rewards conformity, not truth. It rewards performance, not presence. So from childhood, you were trained to live in your head. When you cried, you were told, do not cry. When you laughed too loudly, you were told, be quiet. When you asked a dangerous question, you were told, do not ask. So you learned to manage yourself from inside. You learned to create an inner policeman. That policeman is the voice. It watches you even when nobody else is watching you. It punishes you even when no one else is punishing you. It keeps you in line, and you call it conscience. You call it responsibility. You call it being mature. My beloved ones, much of what you call maturity is simply internalized fear. Now see another layer, the addiction to misery. This will hurt your pride, but it will free you. The mind loves problems. It feeds on problems. A happy mind is a silent mind. A silent mind feels like death to the ego. The ego is not a thing, it is a tension. It is a friction. It is a conflict. If there is no conflict, the ego cannot feel its boundaries. It cannot say, I am. So it manufactures trouble. If you do not have a problem, your mind will create one immediately. It will invent a worry. It will dig up a grave from the past. It will pull out an old skeleton and start arguing with it. It will project a future catastrophe, and then it will feel important because only important people have important catastrophes. Watch yourself on a day when everything is fine. The body is rested. The room is quiet. Nobody is attacking you. There is food. There is time. In such a moment, if you are untrained, the mind becomes uneasy. It says something is missing. It starts scanning for a flaw. It cannot tolerate simplicity. Simplicity is a mirror, and in that mirror the ego disappears. So it creates complexity. It creates a drama. It calls someone. It starts a fight. It scrolls for bad news. It remembers an insult from 10 years ago. Why? Because misery gives it identity. Misery gives it a storyline. I say to you, suffering is not only an accident, it is also an investment. People invest in their suffering. They polish it. They protect it. They do not want to drop it, because then who will they be? The sentence, "I am the one who suffers," is a very strong identity. It gives you a role. It gives you moral superiority. It gives you an excuse. It gives you a strange sweetness. Because if you are the victim, then you do not have to change. If you are the victim, then the world is wrong, not you. The ego loves being right more than it loves being happy. Remember this. The ego would rather be right and miserable than wrong and free. And there is another secret. Misery is familiar. Even if it hurts, it is known territory. Joy is unknown. Peace is unknown. Silence is unknown. The mind is conservative. It prefers the known hell to the unknown heaven. So it returns again and again to the same patterns. You call it bad luck. You call it destiny. It is simply habit. The mind is addicted to its grooves. It is like a needle that returns to the same scratch on the record, and you dance to the same broken song. Then you ask, why is my life repeating? If you understand this, compassion arises, not condemnation. You will not hate yourself. You will see the mechanism. You will see that you were trained into misery. Some of you were raised in homes where tension was normal. Silence meant danger, because silence came before shouting. So even in adult life, when silence comes, the body prepares for impact. Some of you were raised with love that was conditional. So even when you are loved, you cannot relax, because you are waiting for the condition to appear. Some of you were praised only when you achieved. So rest feels like guilt. These are not your sins. These are your programs. But do not use this as a new excuse. The mind will love that too. It will say, I am traumatized, therefore I cannot change. That is another identity, the wounded one. Even healing can become ego. Even therapy can become ego. Everything can become ego if you cling to it as me and mine. Now I go deeper. The illusion of continuity. You think there is a self inside you, solid, consistent, like a stone. You think there is someone who has been the same since childhood, just older. That is a beautiful story, and it is useful for society, because society needs a fixed person to hold responsible, to punish, to reward, to marry, to divorce. But inside, look honestly. Are you one or are you many? In the morning, you are one person. In the afternoon, you are another. With your boss, you are one. With your child, you are another. With your lover, you become someone else. Alone at night, you become a stranger. Your opinions change depending on your mood, your hormones, your hunger, your fatigue, your fear. And yet the mind comes and stitches all these fragments with a thread called I. It creates a narrative, a story that links everything together. It says, I was born there, I did this, I am this kind of person. It creates a biography and then it calls it you. But in reality, there is only a stream. Thoughts arise, thoughts pass. Feelings arise, feelings pass. Sensations arise, sensations pass. Even your so-called personality is mostly a collection of habits. There is no little driver sitting behind your eyes, holding a steering wheel. There is traffic, and the idea of the driver is just another car in the traffic. The thinker is another thought. This is the shock. This is the freedom. When you first see it, fear comes. Because the ego is the belief that there is a center. The ego is the belief that there is an owner. When you see the stream without an owner, the ego panics. It says, then who am I? It feels like death. And in a sense, it is death. Not your biological death, but the death of a fiction. And fictions do not want to die. They will fight. They will create philosophy. They will create spirituality. They will create new identities. The seeker, the meditator, the awakened one. Be careful. The parasite is clever. It can wear any mask. I say to you, you do not have to destroy the self. You cannot destroy what is not there. You only have to see. Seeing is enough. When you see that the self is a narrative, you stop being hypnotized by it. You may still use the word I, because language requires it, but you will not worship it. You will use it like a tool, not like a god. Now understand one more trap, the trap of language. Language is a beautiful invention, but it is also a cage. The mind filters reality through words. You never see a tree. You see the concept tree. You never see a person. You see your label for that person: friend, enemy, attractive, boring, dangerous, safe. You do not meet the living being. You meet your idea. The mind eats the menu and thinks it has eaten the food. Then it says, I know. My beloved ones, your knowing is often just a collection of words. Look at your own experience. A moment happens raw, immediate. Before you can taste it, the mind names it. Good, bad, awkward, successful, failure. The naming is so fast that you miss the moment. You live in a museum of dead words. You walk through corridors of labels. And because words are old, your life becomes old. Reality is always fresh. Reality is always now. But your mind lives in yesterday and tomorrow, in memories and projections, in descriptions and judgments. It misses the pulse. A tree is not the word tree. A face is not the word face. Love is not the word love. Your mind keeps substituting. It substitutes the label for the thing. Then you wonder why life feels flat. Of course it feels flat. Labels are flat. Concepts are dry. The world you are living in is not the world. It is your mental model. And the model is always smaller than reality. The model is a map, and you have forgotten the territory. This linguistic prison becomes even more serious in your relationships. You do not see your partner. You see your story of your partner. You do not hear what they are saying. You hear what you think they mean. You react to your interpretation, not to the reality. Then both of you suffer, and you call it love. And the mind enjoys it, because it has something to chew. It enjoys misunderstandings. It enjoys resentment. It enjoys being a courtroom. It brings evidence from 5 years ago. It says, "See, you were right." It keeps the case alive. A silent heart would forgive, but the mind cannot forgive, because forgiveness closes the file, and the mind wants files. Even your inner life is made of language. You say, "I am anxious." You say, "I am depressed." These words may be useful in a clinic, but inside they can become identity. Instead of feeling sensations, you start wearing labels. You become the word. Then the mind has won again. It has turned living energy into a definition. So what is the way out? Do not misunderstand. I am not saying destroy language. That would be foolish. Use language in the marketplace. Use it to communicate, to create, to play. But do not use language to imprison your own experience. Do not reduce yourself to words. And do not reduce life to words. Now listen carefully, because the solution is subtle. You cannot stop the mind by force. If you try to stop it, you are using the mind to stop the mind. It is like trying to bite your own teeth. It is like trying to lift yourself up by your own shoelaces. The very effort becomes another thought, and the parasite loves effort. It will say, "You are meditating now. You are doing something special. You are becoming superior, and you will be lost again." The way is disidentification. Stepping out of the traffic. The mind is like a busy road. Cars of thoughts rushing, honking, colliding, racing. You have been standing in the middle of the road, trying to manage the traffic, waving your arms, getting hit again and again, I say to you, step aside. Sit on the side of the road. Watch. This watching is not concentration. Concentration is another form of control. Watching is relaxed. It is choiceless. You do not judge the speeding car. You do not chase the beautiful car. You do not get into the car that promises pleasure, and you do not run away from the car that threatens pain. You simply see. A thought arises, you see it. A thought passes, you see it pass. You do not add a comment. The moment you add a comment, you are back in the traffic. So you notice even the comment and you let it go. At first you will fail. The mind is old, the habit is deep. You will start watching, and after 10 seconds, you will be thinking again, and you will forget that you were watching. Then suddenly you remember, and you feel frustrated. The frustration is also a thought. Watch the frustration. Do not make a problem out of it. The mind will say, I am not good at this. Watch that sentence. The mind will say, this is not working. Watch that too. You are not here to create a special state. You are here to see what is. Seeing itself is the miracle. In this watching, something strange happens. The thoughts start losing their power. Not because you fight them, but because you stop feeding them with identification. The parasite cannot survive without your signature. It needs you to say, this is me. It needs you to say, this is my anger, my fear, my desire, my shame. When you simply see, anger becomes a wave of heat, a tightening in the chest, a set of images, a few words. Fear becomes a trembling, a contraction, a scenario. Desire becomes a pull, a fantasy, a sensation. They are processes, not persons. They come, they go, and you remain the watcher. Do not make the watcher into a new self. That is another trick. The mind will say, I am the watcher now. The watcher is not a person. The watcher is just clarity. It is like light. Light does not say, I am light. It simply shines. Awareness does not declare itself. It simply sees. And in this seeing, you begin to understand the biological robot. You begin to notice how quickly the brain jumps to danger. Someone looks away and the mind says rejection. A message arrives late and the mind says abandonment. A small pain in the body and the mind says disease. You see the jump. You see the ancient algorithm. And because you see it, you do not have to obey it. The mind can shout, but you do not have to run. The alarm can ring, but you do not have to believe there is fire every time. This is how you update the software, not by fighting, but by understanding. The brain learns through experience. When you stay present while the alarm rings, and nothing terrible happens, slowly the system recalibrates. It begins to trust reality more than imagination. It begins to loosen its grip. It is like training a nervous animal, not with violence, but with patience. The mind is a frightened animal. It has been hurt. It has seen pain. Treat it with compassion, but do not let it drive the car. Now come back to the addiction, to misery. Watching exposes it. When you watch yourself, you will see moments when you could relax, and yet you choose tension. It is almost like scratching a wound. There is a strange satisfaction. The mind says, "At least I am doing something." Worry feels like action. Anxiety feels like preparation. Self-criticism feels like improvement. Resentment feels like strength. All these are illusions. They are activity without intelligence. They are spinning wheels. When you watch, you see that misery gives you a story. It gives you a sense of being somebody. If you drop it, there is a vast space. In that space, the ego trembles. It says, "Who am I without my suffering?" You may feel empty. Do not be afraid of this emptiness. This emptiness is not a problem. This emptiness is space. This emptiness is room for life. You have been so crowded inside. You have forgotten what spaciousness feels like. In the beginning, this spaciousness can feel like boredom because you have lived on strong flavors, drama, intensity, constant stimulation. Silence feels bland. Peace feels dull. But I tell you, boredom is not in silence. Boredom is the mind missing its toys. Boredom is the addicted mind not getting its drug. If you stay a little longer, boredom turns into serenity. And serenity is not dull. Serenity is vibrant. It is alive, but it is not noisy. See the difference. Noise is not life. Noise is agitation. Life is quiet intensity. A lake can be deep and still. Your mind has been like a stormy sea. You think the storm is power. The storm is just disturbance. The depth is below the storm, and the depth is available right now. Not after years, not after special knowledge, but right now, through seeing. Now the illusion of continuity begins to dissolve. When you watch, you see thoughts as events. You see that the so-called you is a sequence. You see that you are not one solid thing. You are a shifting pattern, and something relaxes. You stop defending an image. You stop trying to be consistent. You stop trying to keep your story intact. You allow yourself to be fresh. This is very rebellious because society wants you predictable. Society wants you to be the same person tomorrow so it can manage you. But life is not predictable. Life is movement. When you stop clinging to a fixed identity, you become flexible. And flexibility is sanity. Rigidity is insanity. Most neurosis is rigidity. A person repeating the same reaction, even when the situation has changed. You will also see how the mind uses the past to control the present. It says, "Because I was hurt, I will not trust. Because I failed, I will not try. Because I was rejected, I will not open." It uses yesterday as a prison for today. Watching breaks that chain. You see the memory as a memory. You see the fear as a fear. You see that now is not then. This simple seeing returns your power. Language also starts losing its tyranny. When you watch, you notice the label appearing. You see the word before it hardens into reality. You see the mind saying, "boring." And you look again, and you see that the moment is not boring. It is just quiet. You see the mind saying, "enemy," and you look again, and you see a human being with fear, with confusion, with their own parasite. You see the mind saying failure, and you look again, and you see an experiment, a learning. Words begin to become transparent. They become tools again, not walls. And slowly, very slowly, you taste something beyond mind, what I call no mind. Do not be afraid of the phrase. No mind does not mean no brain. It does not mean stupidity. It does not mean you cannot think. It means thinking is no longer compulsive. It means thoughts come when needed, like a servant called to the room, and when the job is done, the servant leaves. It means the house is quiet. It means you are no longer living in a constant meeting with yourself. In no mind, intelligence becomes pure. Right now your intelligence is mixed with anxiety, ambition, comparison, guilt. It is like clear water mixed with mud. The water is there, but you cannot see through it. When the mud settles, the water is transparent. That transparency is intuition. Not mystical, not supernatural, simply the brain functioning without inner interference. When the noise stops, perception sharpens. When the commentary stops, you actually see, you actually hear, you actually feel. And something else awakens, a natural compassion, because much of cruelty comes from inner noise. When you are at war with yourself, you spread war. When you are judging yourself, you judge others. When you are punishing yourself, you punish others. When you are afraid inside, you become controlling outside. No mind is not only a personal freedom, it is a social revolution. A quiet person is dangerous to all systems based on fear. A quiet person cannot be easily manipulated. A quiet person does not buy unnecessary things to fill an inner hole. A quiet person does not need enemies to feel alive. A quiet person is sufficient. But remember, the mind will try to steal even no mind. It will make it into a goal. It will say, I must achieve silence. Then you will be tense again. You will be chasing peace. Chasing peace is violence. Peace cannot be chased. Peace happens when chasing ends. So the method remains the same, again and again. Watch, not to get something, but to see what is. And in this watching, you will discover something very intimate. The parasite voice is not one voice. It is a crowd. It is your mother in one tone, your father in another. It is your teacher. It is your culture. It is your past lovers. It is advertisements. It is social media. It is the collective anxiety of humanity recorded inside you. It is not personal. You have been carrying the crowd in your head, and you thought you were alone. My beloved ones, you have never been alone. You have been crowded. So the first act of love toward yourself is to give yourself solitude inside. Not isolation, solitude. Isolation is fear, solitude is space. Solitude is the beauty of being with yourself without a commentator. And when you taste this inner solitude, you will see how tired you have been. You have been living with a constant heckler. Even your successes were insulted by it. Even your rest was disturbed by it. Even your joy was questioned by it. No wonder you feel exhausted. Now I will be very provocative. The mind does not want you to be free. It wants you to be busy. It wants you to be a problem solver. Not because problems need solving, but because it needs occupation. If you solve one problem, it immediately creates another. It will say, what is the next step? It will say, what about my purpose? It will say, what about my future? It will say, what if something goes wrong? It is like a factory producing questions, and you think you are a thinker, but you are just a worker in the factory. You may have noticed this in small ways. When you are about to sleep, the mind suddenly becomes philosophical. When you are on vacation, the mind remembers unpaid bills. When you finally sit down to rest, the mind says you are wasting time. It is afraid of rest. Rest is the enemy of the parasite. Rest brings you close to yourself. And if you come close to yourself, the parasite is exposed. So it keeps you running. Understand the ego as a defense mechanism. Ego is a coping strategy. It is the mask you learn to wear so you would not be hurt, so you would be accepted, so you would feel in control. In childhood, the ego may have been necessary. It helped you survive emotionally. But now you are grown and you are still wearing the same armor. And the armor has become heavy. It protects you, yes, but it also prevents intimacy. It prevents spontaneity. It prevents ease. The ego feeds on comparison. It needs a ladder, higher and lower. It needs superiority and inferiority. It needs to be special. So it is constantly looking sideways. It cannot look directly at life, because then comparison stops. Life is not a competition. It is a phenomenon. But the ego cannot relax into phenomenon. It must turn everything into achievement. Even being calm can become an achievement. Even being kind can become an achievement. Then kindness becomes performance. Calm becomes a badge, and you are back in the prison. So I say to you, be ordinary inside. Not dull ordinary. Ordinary means natural. A tree is ordinary and it is magnificent. The sky is ordinary and it is infinite. Your problem is not that you are ordinary. Your problem is that you are trying to be extraordinary in the eyes of a crowd that is itself miserable. And the crowd rewards misery, because misery makes you controllable. A happy person is not a good consumer. A peaceful person is not a good soldier. A person at ease is not a good slave. Now, how to reclaim the throne? The throne belongs to awareness. Awareness is not a thought. It is the space in which thoughts appear. It is the screen on which the mind projects its movies. You have been hypnotized by the movie. You have forgotten the screen. Disidentification means remembering the screen again and again. When anger comes, you do not become anger. You notice anger. When jealousy comes, you do not become jealous. You notice jealousy. When sadness comes, you do not become sadness. You notice sadness. Then emotions can move. They can complete their cycle. Identification blocks them. It turns them into personality. Watching allows them to be weather, not climate. This also changes your relationship with the body. The body is wise. The body speaks in sensations. The mind translates those sensations into stories. The stomach tightens. The mind says, I am in danger. The heart beats faster. The mind says, I will fail. The throat closes. The mind says, I cannot speak. Watch the raw sensation first. Often it is just energy. It is just aliveness. The mind turns aliveness into anxiety because it does not know what to do with intensity. When you watch, you start enjoying the energy instead of fearing it. Then courage arises, not as a concept, but as a natural capacity to stay present. And once you see this, you begin to fire the servant, not by violence, not by suppression. You fire it by not giving it the keys. The mind will still function when needed. You will still plan. You will still remember. You will still calculate. But the mind will not sit on your head all day like a dictator. it will become a secretary again, useful, efficient, silent when not needed. I want you to understand the difference between mind and consciousness in a secular way. Mind is content. It is thoughts, images, memories, judgments, internal speech. Consciousness is context. It is the open field in which content appears. Content is always changing. Context is stable. Content is noisy. Context is silent. Content is learned. Context is natural. You have been trained to live as content. That is why you feel unstable. The moment content changes, you panic. But if you rest as context, content can change and you remain untouched. In practical terms, this means you begin to pause. A thought arises, you pause. Not a dramatic pause, just a small space. In that space, you see the thought as an object. The thought says you are not good enough. You pause, you see it. You do not argue, because arguing is still taking it seriously. You do not agree, because agreeing is slavery. You simply see. And in seeing, the thought loses authority. It becomes like a cloud passing. This is the beginning of freedom. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. That is just another compulsion. Freedom is not being pushed around from the inside. Freedom is having space between stimulus and response. In that space, intelligence can act. Without that space, you are a biological robot running on old code. And I tell you, much of humanity is living like that. People think they have choice, but they are repeating patterns. They call it love, but it is attachment. They call it anger, but it is fear. They call it ambition, but it is insecurity. They call it morality, but it is conditioning. They call it knowledge, but it is borrowed. And behind it all, the parasite voice keeps talking, keeps narrating, keeps keeping them asleep. Do not be offended. Offense is also ego. Use this as a mirror. If you are offended, watch the offense. Watch how quickly the mind says, I have been attacked. Watch the defensive posture. Watch the need to be right. Watch it with humor. Humor is very important. The parasite cannot survive laughter. Laughter brings lightness. The ego is heavy. The ego is serious. If you can laugh at your mind, you have already stepped out of it. Now, no mind. Let me describe it carefully, because the mind will misunderstand it. No mind is not the absence of practical thought. It is the absence of compulsive inner speech. It is not blankness, it is clarity. It is not sleep, it is wakefulness. It is not numbness, it is sensitivity. In no mind, you are more alive, not less. You hear sounds more sharply. You taste food more deeply. You feel the air on your skin. You notice the subtle expressions on faces. You respond appropriately, not from a script, but from direct perception. And yes, paradoxically, this is when wisdom awakens. When logic sleeps, wisdom awakens. Logic is useful, but it is limited. Logic works with known elements. Wisdom works with the whole. Wisdom is the brain and body and perception operating as one organism without inner conflict. Intuition is not magic. It is your nervous system integrating information faster than words. But words are slow. The mind is slow. It keeps translating reality into language, and in the translation, you lose the living truth. So I challenge you, my beloved ones, to reclaim your house. Fire the servant as master. Put it back to work where it belongs. Let the mind be a tool. A tool is beautiful in your hands. A hammer in your hand can build a home. A hammer on your head is a disaster. Right now the mind is on your head. It is beating you all day. And you call that life. Reclaiming the throne means one simple revolution. Again and again, you remember, I am the one who sees, not as a thought, but as a fact. Thoughts are seen. Emotions are seen. The voice is heard. Therefore, you are not the voice. This is not philosophy. This is direct observation. The parasite survives because you forget this simple fact and do not make it into a tense practice. Make it into a gentle returning. Each time you forget and you remember, that remembering is the path. Do not condemn forgetting. Forgetting is old habit. Remembering is new intelligence. Slowly the balance shifts. The moments of remembering become longer. The gaps between thoughts become wider. And in those gaps, you taste yourself. You have been asking, who am I? The mind answers with biographies, with roles, with labels. I say to you, you are the space in which all biographies appear. You are the awareness in which all roles come and go. You are not your job, not your status, not your relationship, not your success, not your failure. Those are scenes in the movie. You are the screen, and the screen is untouched by tragedy and comedy. This does not make you cold. It makes you warm, because when you are not occupied with your inner noise, you have energy to love. Not possessive love, not needy love, but simple human warmth. You listen. You are present. You do not use the other as a mirror for your ego. You meet them. And you will be surprised. Most conflict disappears when the commentator disappears. Because conflict is often two commentaries colliding, not two realities. Now, a final thing. The mind will ask, how long will it take? That is the mind again. Time is its favorite trick. It postpones. It says, someday I will be free. Freedom is not someday. Freedom is always now, not as a permanent state you achieve, but as a moment you enter. Each time you watch, you are free in that instant. Each time you disidentify, you reclaim the throne in that instant. Build from these instants. Let them accumulate not as an ambition, but as a natural growth. So listen to me, the truth about your mind that no one tells you is simple and devastating. The voice you call you is not you. It is a survival program, a social program, a fear program. It is useful in small doses and poisonous as a constant companion. It keeps you negative because negativity once kept your ancestors alive. It keeps you miserable because misery gives the ego a shape. It keeps you in story because story creates the illusion of a solid self. It keeps you in words because words are controllable, while reality is wild, and the way out is not a war. The way out is seeing. Step out of the traffic. Sit by the side of the road. Let the cars pass. Do not chase, do not resist. Watch. In that watching, the parasite starves. In that watching, the servant returns to its place. In that watching, you become the master again. And I say to you, being the master does not mean domination. It means responsibility. It means you do not hand your life to a machine. It means you do not hand your heart to a tape recorder. It means you live directly. It means you look at the tree and you see the tree, not the word. It means you look at a person and you see the person, not your label. It means you look at yourself and you see movement, not identity. Then no mind is not a distant peak. It is your natural ground. It has been there underneath every thought, every fear, every drama. It is the silence that was always present behind the noise. You simply forgot it because nobody taught you to look. Now I have told you, not as a belief, but as an invitation to observe. So the next time you are alone in the room, remember, you are not alone with the voice. You are also alone with the one who can hear the voice. Turn toward that one. Rest there. Let the mind talk if it wants. Let it complain, let it judge. Let it narrate. You do not have to fight. You do not have to obey. You only have to know this is not me. This is a mechanism. This is an old servant. And I am the one who sees. In that knowing quietly, without fireworks, you reclaim your life.